shadows lurking, whispers in the hall, stories of the past, spirits rise and fall, feel the cold around you as the fear creeps in. Welcome to the spectral place, where the haunted live, here among the ghostly space.
Today we get some huge news. We're getting more technical with the paranormal news hour. We're going to be trying some new stuff over the next couple weeks, over the next month or so, to try to bring this show into the 23rd century. Or is it the 21st? I can't remember. Wherever Buck Rogers was at. For you people sitting at home. I want to introduce Melody Larson. She's my new co-host. Melody, welcome. You've been on before, but welcome back. How you doing?
I'm so good. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Hey, everything's working right now. All the spirits are working themselves out. We are broadcasting live from the James R. Ross Memorial Studios in haunted downtown Lawrence, Massachusetts. And my co-host lives 1.5 million miles away from here. So we're lucky to have her. So thank you for joining us. So today we want to talk about all things paranormal and if there's been anything new and exciting going on. As of recent, before we get into today's episodes, we're going to talk today a little bit about stone structures in not just New England, but all across the United States. In fact, Melody found a couple cool points we're going to be discussing. But what I want to bring up was real quick yesterday. I don't think it was paranormal, but I find it weird that I just dropped the blank name. The Vermont Triangle, and I just drew a blank on the name, and I don't believe I did that, had a few tornado scares. I've never seen this many tornado warnings or watches up in this area as I saw yesterday. How about you?
No, it was really, really crazy.
It is, isn't it? I found that to be real interesting. I'll be honest with you. I don't know if that has anything to do with the paranormal or not, but let me tell you, that was just weird. The Ossipee Triangle, the Bennington Triangle of Vermont, that's what it's called. And even the Bridgewater Triangle all had warnings and some very close encounters. So I just found that weird. Did you see what happened 2 days ago? Well, actually, yeah, 2 days ago. June 22nd.
No, what happened?
Whitehall, New York, now officially has unveiled its first Bigfoot marker.
Oh.
Yeah, Whitehall,
That's
New York,
really
Bigfoot
awesome.
marker officially unveiled in Skensborough. This lady put this out yesterday. So it's a very interesting marker. It says Bigfoot Sanctuary. For centuries, local stories tell of sightings of giant hairy beasts that walk upright and leave huge footprints. Local law protects them. Thank God.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. I was happy to hear that. That one we won't discuss. That's for sure. That's got a little bit of an adult connotation to it. And we are a family-friendly so it'll be interesting. Well, today's subject is stones. Let's start talking about some of the stones. I want to start with you because you started a little further away than New England, which is fine, but you had two very interesting sites. Would you like to discuss those?
Sure. So I have a couple that are distant, and then I have one that's kind of local to us as well. So one of the ones that I have been studying have been some of the Navajo ruins. in Arizona, which are the Betekin Trail, the Keat Seal Trail, and Inscription House. They make a long hike of abandoned Navajo national monuments in Arizona. Their homes built into the rock, which is a really, really amazing thing. And it just kind of like goes way back, and it kind of shows us our history and where we've been and like how people made their start in our country. And I really think that it's super interesting. And it's always good to get to know the people who were here before we came over from Europe even. So I thought that those were some really interesting structures. It's something that I'm studying right now. I'm actually reading a book about them called In Search of the Old Ones by David Roberts, exploring the Anasazi world of the Southwest. So kind of like my most recent research, which I have totally loved. But a little closer to home.
So before we get into the one closer to home, because I have a lot close to home that I'm going to be discussing. This Navajo one, how old's that site again?
Oh, geez. It dates way, way back. I didn't write down the date. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
Let me see if I can find it here. I want to say before even 1936. 1936 is when it was first explored.
What was the name of it again?
It is the Betekin Keat Seal and Inscription House.
B-U...
No, Betekin is Beatatakin.
The Betekin National Monument?
Right.
Oh, it's owned by the U.S. Park Service. All right, got it. Boy, yeah, that does look old.
Absolutely.
Well, does that look old? It's not open right now, so we can't go visit it. Oh, here it is. In 1250 to 1300.
Yes, there you go.
There'd be a way of finding it. So, yes, that is a very old site, and there are a lot of those real old sites. So 1250 to 1300 1250 to 1300, and we are in 2025. So that would be. You good? You got you great with math over there? Because I never was. Let's see.
Sorry.
So 1300, 2300, 35. Yeah, that's a few thousand years old. Okay.
Absolutely.
So that's pretty cool. It looks pretty cool. I mean, looking at this thing here makes you wonder how people lived, especially out there in that extreme heat, because that's not pleasant. If you think it's been hot around here, I got words for you. It's nothing compared to that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the fact that how they worked and how they got up and down from the structures and how they actually used some of those stone structures, they would put them deep into the mountains to act as like a refrigeration kind of deal. Like,
correct.
The fact that they could figure that out so long ago is really, really an amazing story.
Yes, it is. So those are about 7,000, 8,000 years old. So that puts it into perspective for everybody sitting here and listening at home tonight. All right. So what else did you find?
So we also have a structure that was brought up through some controversy, actually by an author or a speaker by the name of Scott Walter. He found a site out in Georgia that actually connects us to the Mayans. And it is it's in Chattahoochee National Forest. It's an Itza Mayan place. It's called Track Rock Gap, and it's got many petroglyphs on it, and they've even connected the Mayan blue color to it.
Chattahoochee on a Connie. Wow. I'm surprised they found the place this big, because I thought what's his name had destroyed all those rune stones and sites. Our former president, who sent scouts out all over the United States when it was open territory, Jackson, to destroy all these sites, to prove that, we were the first people that actually settled America.
Right.
Which I think is a joke, because there were Mayan spots in as far north as Lake Michigan. In fact, there's believed to be a Mayan rock under Lake Michigan.
Absolutely.
So this is 867,000 acres of land across 26 counties. That's incredible. So what do you know about this place?
So I do know that it's been taken over by the government. You cannot access it without a bunch of grants and contacting them ahead of time. It's a lot of red tape. So I know that they're really trying to work on keeping it hush-hush. But that was one of the things that was great about following Scott Walter and all of his works, because he's really trying to work on rewriting history, if you will, and kind of let people know, we actually go way, way further back than we ever even thought originally possible. Because we're kind of taught in our books or whatever about Christopher Columbus, and he was the first one over here. And there's so much controversy to that. And I love that this is one of the sites that can say, hey, actually, America goes back way before that.
Just one quick thing. I went to their website just to look. You said it was closed. Maybe a certain section of it's closed. But there's 850 miles of recreation trails, dozens of campgrounds, picnic areas, and other recreational activity on the land. You have to get permits and stuff.
I just don't think you can go to the Mayan site.
Probably, yeah. That's probably somewhere in the middle of this beautiful picture they're showing us. And they probably have it well taped off that you can't get near there. But you can actually get into the park, though. And if you want to get to the Mayan site, they're actually hiring.
Huh.
So you can go to work for them, and while you're working, maybe, make a little sidetrack with the four-wheeler.
Right.
So I found that interesting, because you said so it's the Mayan site only that you're not allowed to.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, so let's clear that up. Because there's camping, there's maps, there's hiking, there's everything you can think of here. So I just wanted to let you know that. But that sounds like a real interesting place. So what else did you learn about it from reading his book?
So I've learned about a few different sites. Another one was a meticulously crafted stone chamber that's buried underground in the woods of rural Pennsylvania. That is really awesome as well.
What's special? What's the name of that place again? The one in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. I'm sorry. Give me 1 second.
There's a lot of great things out in Pennsylvania.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That makes it real interesting, not just stone structures. You got you got people who live out there that live a different life. So it's real interesting. All right. So what else did you find?
I can't find the name on that one specifically.
Okay, so what's the next one?
I also have closer to home, and unfortunately, I just missed it. I don't know if everybody knows, but we have what is called America's Stonehenge.
Yes.
Actually, right here in New Hampshire, in Salem, New Hampshire. And the awesome thing about our American Stonehenge is just a few days ago, there is a perfect alignment on the sunrise of the summer solstice. which is absolutely beautiful. I know a lot of people trek up there. And there's all kinds of different stone structures up there that's really gorgeous. It's well worth like a little hike. It's family friendly. You can go up any time of the year, but the summer solstice is a great big event.
Did you ever make it to that one? Ever?
I haven't as of yet. I wanted to this past year, but I just wasn't able to get up there.
Hey, we have somebody live watching us on one of my pages. Say hi to Wolf.
Hi, Wolf. How's it going?
So he's on watching us, a few other people. Well, that's so, yeah. So going through New England stone history, stones everywhere. There are many stones from the rocky coastlines of Massachusetts, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Rhode Island, but few people know that there are hundreds of structures covering New England. During the 1930s and 40s, people started uncovering these structures as they cleared land for farming and other things. So these stone structures started appearing when we New Englanders needed more farmland to feed people. So these things just started showing up. There's estimated 250,000 miles of stone walls. And some believe that these walls and structures date back to the ancient colonization of America or prehistory of America. Some of these structures are built to align with stars and planets. The stand new of the megaliths and the are on many different views, and there's a few of these stone tables or sacrificial altars. Some of these structures were built by medieval monks, the Irish, the Phoenicians, the Vikings, Native Americans, and some Old English builders known as root cellars. So, I mean, they're all over New England. 3 Northeast counties account for the majority of these stone structures in North America: Putnam County, New York, New London, and Windham County, Vermont. You ever been to Windham County, Vermont? I know you spend time in Vermont.
No, I haven't, unfortunately. I haven't been able to get too far out into Vermont as of yet.
All right. Okay. Mass. So Mass has most of the dense concentration of these beehive stone structures that were built by the Culdean monks, the Irish, Scottish. There's 105 locations in Mass. There's 62 locations in Connecticut, 51 in New Hampshire. That includes Stonehenge. 41 in Vermont, 12 in Rhode Island, and 4 in the lonely state of Maine. I cannot believe that the size of Maine. You ever been through Maine? Maine's such a big state.
Huge.
You had all the islands and everything. I mean, I know Vermont is the biggest state in the Union when you flatten it out. You flatten out all the mountains land-wise. So I just find it weird that there's only 4 stone structures in all of Maine. I really do.
Yeah, that is pretty odd.
Reason for these concentrations is that the ancients used the rivers to travel. Well, that is true. I mean, but Maine, I mean, you want to talk about traveling water in the ancients, there's plenty of islands and ocean to travel and rivers that go through the whole state. The frequently traveled upstream using the Merrimack, Thames River in Connecticut, and in Connecticut, Mass, and Vermont. The ancients used the river to build stone structures along the river routes. Early New England settlers found these structures in the woods, and when they landed here in New England, there was one strong circular rectangle, 30 feet long, many roof openings to allow the light and the structure in. So obviously we had no electricity in New England back that many years ago. So there were no lights, no computers, no nothing. So they needed natural light because you needed to see what you were doing in there. So the way the roof openings were set up, early mercenaries from mercantile people wrote of these Indian stone castles. In 1654, John Winthrop received a letter from John Hitchin of Springfield, Mass., who was set out there to go look at the land and see what was out there and see if it was worth settling. And he said there were many stone structures, and he walked nearly recently discovered near the Pequot Native American tribe area. One was the Upton Stone Chamber in Upton, Mass., which is located near Worcester. This stone structure is 14 feet entrance tunnel and ends with a beehive room with 12 feet dome, beehive room 11 feet, and a stone slab that sits on top, believed to be built by Irish monks. In 1989, two archaeoastronomers concluded people used this chamber between 700 and 750 AD to study Pleiades. Around 670 AD, they went to view the summer solstice. In 2015, Geological Survey estimated the structure between 1350 and 1625 based on samples of soil and metals. No Native American artifacts had ever been found, and those would have been the Whipmucks. And you can visit this site at the Upton Heritage Park, and it is free. That might be a fun ride one day.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree.
Yeah. And then you have Herodotus stone structure in Alton and Old Town, Maine. That can't be, that's pretty far up. The red paint people of Maine settled the area about 7,000 years ago. Today known as Herodio Wildlife Refuge. It's a wetland area. Archaeologists discovered this form from about 7,000 years ago along a Wabanaki traditional trail that was used by the Wabanaki tribe. Among the boys' invested burial ground site, they originally thought it might be a ancestral burial site. That at least 18 curious stone pilings made by humans, most 6.5 feet in diameter and 1.5 feet high. No one knows who built this, why they did, or when they built it. So that's even interesting. And that's open free of charge. It's owned by the University of Maine. So that might be something interesting. Maybe we should take a ride out there and go visit one of those sites. What do you think?
I think so. I think we should also make sure we're putting some of these cliff notes or links into the description for our viewers so that they can take a look at them themselves.
I'll have to go back.
I think we should go out with our team.
Right. I think we should. I'll go back and throw some of these up on Facebook after we get off the air.
Okay.
So they can find these. I'm not going to write everything down because I'm not going to have time tonight, but I can at least make a list and get it out within the next couple hours. All right. Gungy Swamp in Groton, Connecticut, an archaeological site in Groton, Connecticut. Contractors stone structures such as the beehive chambers, the petroglyphs, a double oracle stone, cellars, walls, and they date block dating many hundred years. Some of the structures thought to be Native American, used for ceremonial functions. Colonial settlers built in the area afterwards and turned it into a fort, and it has a birthing chamber in there too. Some features of this site could have been used for early fortification. The theory is this site was built in the 8th century by Irish monks. The monks believed Gungy Swamp was the church of the people. Others say Native Americans. Gungy Swamp's most famous chamber is called the Calendar Chamber. Archaeologists suspect that the colonists originally used this for storage for nearby Tan Bach Mill. So it's a very interesting site. It allows the shaft of sunlight to go directly into the smaller chamber and with a longer structure going out. And Gungi Swamp is preserved, but many structures stands on private land. And it can be toured virtually through the Denson Nature Center. So that's another place to go.
That's exciting.
Yeah, you could actually go online and look. There's a lot of these you have to actually go out and see. Hi, Dina. So we have Dina Fortune.
Hi, Dina.
Oh, somebody you know, cool. So hi, Dina. So the next one would be closer to this area, not your, well, on the way to you, but south of you. You'd like this one. We can eat this one, actually. We just need to bring some butter, salt, and pepper with us, and we'll be all set.
Okay, then.
It's called the Potato Cave in Acton, Mass. You like that one? We can go eat that. It's in the Brook Area Conservation Area. Known as Potato Cave, residents believe it's a root cellar. In 2006, an excavation found evidence of people storing food in there in the 18th and 19th century. Some say it's nature's built before colonization. Some say the railroad workers built it in the 19th century. The restored chamber is visited in the Neshoba Brook Conservation Area of North Acton off of Route 27, and you can go visit that at any time, all right, during the day when it's open. Queen's Fort and the Queen's Bed Chamber in a very cool location of Exeter, Rhode Island. Now, Exeter, Rhode Island is home to spirits, the paranormal, and, of course, Mercy Brown. So, who was a vampire.
Mm-hmm.
So, later years, it sheltered huts and different things, food and stuff. Archaeologists, historians associate the Fort Stonewall with John, a colonial mason, who may have been a Narragansett or English built as a stone fort to protect against King Philip in 1675 to 78. Later, the colonists would attack the fort during the war, and within the fort there was a chamber 6 square feet by 7 square feet ceiling with a sand floor. One belief is the fort was built by the Narragansett Queen Quappin or Matunchak Hyde during King Philip's War. She moved out after the war when she died in private. Some say John and her still are in the area. Many archaeologists have been working at this site for years and say it's Native American. Rhode Island Historical owns it. It's on their property. You can access it through the Exeter trails. Oh,
Interesting.
yeah. Now, this one's not too far from you, I don't think. The Stowe Structure, Vermont, in South Woodstock. Vermont has 52 stone structures in 23 towns and 5 counties. That's a lot of stone structures, yes. Have you ever seen this one?
No, I haven't, unfortunately. I've got to get out and about and do some exploring in my area.
Yeah, I mean, that would be fun, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
Imagine what you could learn just by exploring this area. A retired marine biologist discovered this site back in 1975. The structure found inscriptions of a dead Celtic language called Ognan, O-G-A-N. It's concluded that the Celts from the Iberian Peninsula about 1000 BC. Might have been here. Inscriptions all face east, which is symbolic markings. Well, the Celtic the Celtic plaza name. So critics say no. They said the Celts would have left other evidence behind that they settled New England, but there's been no other evidence found. The state archaeologists concluded that these stone structures in Vermont did not serve as burial vaults. Channel on line killing, potash burial of, it ended what they were to say. So that's a very interesting thing. I kind of fumbled up the end on that one. You could tell I was having some issues that day. I didn't realize that when I was writing that. But I got to rewrite that one over. So, I mean, these structures are just amazing. Okay. Now we come across, well, remember this, folks. All those sites I just mentioned were free to visit. Okay? Free to visit. Owned by historical societies and, towns and trail committees and, all the nice vegetation things. The next one we're looking at is a 30-acre site in Salem, New Hampshire. First dubbed Mystery Hill by William Goodwin in 1982, when it was renamed, and then later renamed America's Stonehenge in 1982. The name was coined. The original name was coined in a 1962 news article. So this site was a roadside oddity for years. Area after Stonehenge, named after the English version of Stonehenge. Radiocarbon shows that this is about 4,000 years old, give or take 650 years. When you radiocarbon anything in stone, it's either plus or minus 650 years. So keep that in mind when you're looking at those things. Even the ones you did at the Navajo site, there's always that. In 1982, David Stewart Smith, director of the restoration of Mystery Hill, found a Quong mouth out on the main site. Discarded 100 chips of flakes. And so when they're going through this area, they're cleaning it up and restoring the area. When they actually found a pile of chips, stone chips, made after you bust away the spear points of the arrowheads. And it concluded that this was evidence of teal manufacturing consistent with Native Americans with their techniques. No date could ever be found. There wasn't enough there to carbon date. And when you start carbon dating, that costs pretty penny. So that's the other thing. No Bronze Age artifacts have ever been found in this area. No European artifacts have ever been found on this site. The surface of the stone suggests the quarry techniques were done by native stone workers, using native stone tools from rather than the iron that the European settlers used. So there's been no iron at this point ever been known to be in that area. So obviously this site is pre-colonial if they're using stone tools. Some say the structure is an accurate astrological calendar that can be used to predict the lunar and solar eclipses in North America. In fact, Native American wigwam have been found in this area. A wooden canoe that used the slash and burn technique. So slash and burn is the way Native Americans built the canoe. They would actually hatch out, burn the bottom of the tree, take it down, and then burn the inside of the wood, the tree, to easily dig out the wood to make that type of canoe. Very interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. And then there are 2 fire pits that date back 2,000 years ago. Various Pottev and Native American tools have been found on the site. The site first appears in Gilbert's History of Salem in 1907, which is the John Patty who saw it. He had a house in the backwoods 70 years ago. Took a tour of Paupers before a town farm was bought. This was a wild, beautiful spot, and moving rough buildings and soft pines, about which most weird and fantastic might be woven. So that's what this site was, according to Patty. Many believe Patty built this site in the 19th century to make it look like it's equivalent to old. H.P. Lovecraft wrote the Dunwich Horror at this location. And before I continue about this location, this is an area of Salem that's very hard to find. So it's out in the middle of the woods. It's North Salem, which is even worse. So
yeah, so it's at 105 Haverhill Road in
Right.
Salem, New Hampshire.
Right, which is near the dump. And when I was a kid, that was pretty wooded. It's still wooded today, but not nearly as wooded. They also found the sacrificial stone. According to legend, it was there for sacrificial ceremonies. And the stone had an area for the blood to run. Now, what is interesting about this, before I continue in my notes, okay, a couple things. One that always fascinated me. There is a show on the Science Channel called Above Ground Archaeology, and they had somebody on about Stonehenge.
Mhm.
So we talk about the Celtics. We're talking about all these people, the Native Americans. It's 4,000 years, give or take 650 years, right? As I've told everybody. What I find real interesting is I just drew a blank. I was going with this somewhere real interesting, and I just right out of my brain.
Mhm.
Which, hey, that's been happening a lot lately, probably because I'm 84.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, so this show I watched on Above Ground Archaeology has America's Stonehenge lining up with England's Stonehenge on one side and modern day downtown Tripoli on the other side.
Right.
And then, of course, they line up back to America's Stonehenge, which leads me to believe, well, what is really this? Is this Native American, or could this be longer? I'm shooting along the line it was probably the Phoenicians. So a lot longer.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's funny because Scott Walter talks on that because he actually does an episode of it on season 1. It's episode 6 about the history of America's Stonehenge and how it has a sacrificial table. So it's thought they actually think that they use children on it to appease the gods.
Yeah.
But yeah, it lines perfectly with the original Stonehenge.
Okay, so that's the show I was watching. The Scott Walter show. I knew that name had rung a bell.
America Unearthed.
America Unearthed. Yes, I could never remember the name of that show. Thank you. That was a real interesting show, let me tell you. I don't think it's on anymore. I haven't seen any new episodes or anything. So I'll have to catch up on them probably on YouTube or something. Find them. But yeah, that talked about the sacrificial stone. Yeah, it was called America Unearthed.
Yeah.
Some people believe that could have been used for cider too. As a cider press or soap making. So let's get some, interesting ends to this. William Goodwin, the owner, believed it was Irish monks that lived there before Columbus had settled America. So he's believing it was Irish monks out of Chase. Sure, Tom. That makes sense. Out of the Salem Town History book, which is Gilbert's History of Salem. And they were here long before Columbus settled America. Strong belief it was built again by Irish monks. The location off of Havel Road. If you look this place up now, remember I said to you and I said to everybody at home, all those other places are free and owned by nonprofits, the National Wildlife Group, the Brook Group, whatever.
Right.
This, if you look this up online, America's Stonehenge is privately owned tourist attraction, not a 501c nonprofit, not a government organization. So I'm just letting everybody know that. Okay? I don't have any disbelief or anything wrong with that. I'm just letting you know that this is what it is. Now, here's something that's even more interesting. So, up until recently, I had no idea what I was walking into. I've always been kind of fascinated with stone structures, especially Stonehenge, because we're near my great aunt's house. I always drove by it. I always believed that there were other people here before us aristocrats showed up. That's us English, that is. And then later on, my Italian and the French and all the immigrants that have blanketed us since then. So I find that interesting. So I went up to this location called the Beehive in Danville, New Hampshire. This is a place you have to check out. In fact, next time I go, I'll leave enough time so you can come down and check this thing out. Danville isn't too far from me. It's on the New Hampshire line, but it's close to Mass. So it's on the coastal side of New Hampshire. Just so you know where you're coming in from. All right?
Right.
So it's unknown age, unknown origin, similar structure to America's Stonehenge. A local historian had described the similar shape and structures located on a private property in Danville. The chamber is a U shape with an entrance at the end and both walls squared off. One angle, one piece of stone ceiling is impressive. Left wall joining the entrance wall on the left side of the opening, swirled off, making a corner. Ground cover over the roof to conceal who's in there and insulate. The view from the left side of the chamber, stone, and the right side of the chamber, stone, is pretty much the same. Okay? But as you approach the Danville one, now mind you, this is the only one that's open to the public. From 3 directions, you could walk right past the structure and not even see it. So
Wow.
that is interesting.
And this
Uh,
is the Sally F. Jones house, right?
no, this is the Danville beehive.
Okay. Sorry.
No problem. So you these this it's in great condition, located off a small hillside, 2x3 entryway, 4 inches deep, and faces the southwest. 12-inch step down into the chamber, and the chamber is first 4 feet wide by 7 feet dash 5 feet deep and 4 feet high. Believed to be indigenous ceremonial chamber. Found a large outcropping of a granite ledge near connected with stone walls 150 meters long. This place is incredible to look at. Were closed by the stone structures look like a serpent, similar to the end of Stonehenge. So there is some reasonable accounts of the same. America's Stonehenge is 4,000 years old. For another time is one in Newton, New Hampshire. That radius was dated 2,871 years ago. Please let me know if there are any stones plus or minus 140 years old. So if you come across these beehives, please check them out. You don't know what you're going to find in them. So when it was all said and done, we actually went into the beehive and did a soil sample. The soil is metallic.
Huh.
Mm-hmm. So it makes it real interesting who really built these if you have metallic soil. Real interesting.
Right.
All right. Did you talk about Google Guidestones? No. Oh, the Georgia. Yes, I did. You there?
Yes.
Okay, because I thought I heard we just got disconnected. Yeah, we did Wolf. Want to know if we talked about the Georgia? Did we talk about the Georgia Guidestones? Is that the one you brought up?
No, we didn't talk about the Georgia Guidestones. We talked about the Mayan site in the National Forest, but we didn't talk about the Georgia Guidestones.
Okay. All right. The Georgia Guidestones. We'll talk about them real quick. Let me just finish up my thought on this, and Wolf, we'll talk about the Georgia Guidestones. Ooh, those look incredible.
Oh, I remember these. Okay.
All right, so back to Danville Beehive. Now, Danville was actually very interesting. If you're from Massachusetts, it was originally part of Haverhill, part of Amesbury, part of Salisbury. Danville's all over the map, right? So I have a friend out there who's had a paranormal team for years. But Bob McDermott, who does the radio show with me when he can. You haven't met Bob, but you know who Bob is, right? Bob tells me that there are other stones, structures like the Danville Beehive, but they're all on private property. We've been lucky enough. We haven't started it yet because I still try to get some type of equipment that we're going to need to actually get permission to go to those sites. So we're pretty cool about that. And when we go, I'll ask you to join us. Oh, God. I don't think I want this falling on me. So the granite monument that stood by Ebert County, Georgia, United States, 1980 to 2022. It's not that old. 3 inches, made from 6 granite slabs, weighed a total of 237,746 pounds. The structure is sometimes referred to as America's Stonehenge. The monument creators believed there was going to be an upcoming social, nuclear, or economic calamity, and they wanted a monument to serve as a guide for humanity, which would exist after all. controversial from this time of construction, ultimately became subject of conspiracy theories and everything else. On the morning of July 6th, the Guidestones were heavily damaged by a bombing from a vandal. The debris of this Guidestones were removed by local government later that day. In late July, Everton Mayor announced plans to rebuild the monument. However, August 8th, Everton County Board of Commissioners voted to donate the remaining monument to the Everton Granite Association and return the 5 acres of land which the monument was erected to its previous owner. So it's not that old, but what an interesting story. So it makes you wonder, some of these other stone structures, were they built for this reason? Not so much nuclear, but an economic calamity, built for the end of the world. Wouldn't that make you wonder? I'm not talking about the ones in Georgia where they lived, but I'm talking about some of these other incidences, like the Gungy Swamp, Stonehenge. Don't you find that quite interesting? Because I do.
Absolutely.
It would make you want to think and go, I wonder. Was Stonehenge built for something like this? Was the Danville beehives built for something like this?
Well, I know also going back to the mystery of the Georgia Guidestones, I know that there's also a certain, I don't know if it's every day or if it's a certain time of year, but it's another one of those solstice events where during sunset, the sun perfectly aligns and it shoots through the stones and it illuminates certain passages on them.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's the same with America's Stonehenge and English Stonehenge. That's what they do. It is interesting because, today we can build those because we have computers and everything else. But the way some of these old stone structures that date back 4,000, 3,000, even 2,000 years ago, some of the newer ones, we didn't have that scientific equipment to line up the signs so perfectly for its summer solstice. So there had to be people very intelligent, far superior than we thought, living in these days.
Agreed. They had to know exactly how to follow the stars and follow the rise and fall of the sun during each equinox to be able to line them up perfectly.
Right, because the equinox happens only once a year. Or once every, 4 years? When's the equinox happen?
There are 4 equinoxes per year. There is the spring, the summer, the fall, and the winter.
So there's 4 equinoxes a year. So that is interesting. So what makes you think, since the equinox is so important to some of these earlier societies, whether they were Celtics, Trojans, it didn't matter. If this was so important, I could see why this area would be so important to take. It makes sense. It really does.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was wrong. There are only 2 times a year when the Earth's
two
axis
times.
is
Okay.
tilted. Right.
All right, so those 2 times a year, the fall and the summer solstice, right?
Yeah.
I'm still learning about that stuff. I have a great new team member that knows more about that stuff than anybody I know. So
the spring and the fall equinox are the actual equinoxes,
okay.
And then the other ones are like halfway points. So like the summer and the winter are just solstices.
Okay.
And then spring and fall are the equinox.
Right, and we just had the summer solstice. So we just had that.
Solstice,
Yeah. So, and a lot of people celebrated that night. I had somebody, what did I do that night? Oh, I think we had somebody on. Oh, I did my show that night. And we had somebody on talking about the summer solstice a little bit. And she's a Wiccan and what she does to celebrate the solstices and stuff. So, whatever the natural world around us throws at us, it's always very interesting, no matter what it is. Whether it's the paranormal, whether it's ufology, whether it's a belief, whether it's stones. It doesn't matter what it's thrown at us. It's our job to tell its story, research it, and work on it. And that's what we do. And that's what we're going to continue to do. Research it, work on it. Oh, there was any? Let me just double check before I end this thing that we have no questions from.
I think we are good.
Yeah, I don't see anything else. Okay. So,
sorry, well, thank you for correcting me.
So, back to what I was saying. It's real interesting how all these stone structures line up, especially in the day where we didn't have the equipment we have today. That you have Stonehenge that lines up with America's Stonehenge, that lines up with downtown Tripoli and back. You have all these stone caves that are all over this area, which leads you to believe there is a belief and there are Viking burial grounds in the Merrimack River Valley. That's another question to ask with some of these stone structures in Danville, some of the ones we haven't gotten into yet. Were they Viking? We don't know, but we know there's metal. We've done stone testing. We've done a whole bunch of tests at the Danville beehive, and we'll be doing this on the other beehives located on private properties in and around southern New Hampshire. What I want to do, though, before we hang up the phone is, Melody, do you have anything going on out your way before we come to the end of this great show?
The only thing I currently have going on is I will be reading tarot cards on Sundays from an antique shop called Puggy's Antiques on Emerald Street in Keene. I'm sorry, my brain stopped for a second. But other than that, I got in a bunch of new crystals at the office space. So if anybody wants to make an appointment to come up and come see them, they are absolutely gorgeous. And that's about all I really have going right this second.
So this Saturday, we'll be back at Haunted Hilldale Cemetery this Saturday night. July 19th, we'll be at the Sandown Meeting House in the Sandown Triangle. That is open to the public. It is free. Donations are more than welcome. We're going to have, we already got a Bigfoot researcher lined up. We have a UFO person lined up. We do have a psychic lined up. And we got some big surprises coming that night. So I just want to let you know about that night. And then in July, we'll probably do a couple more ghost hunts at Hilldale. With the rain we've been having, we kind of been forced to do more ghost hunts this year because we need the gas to cut the lawn. I mean, last couple of years, it's been a dry summer. This year hasn't been too dry. Just think of your own backyards when you're trying to cut with all the rain we've had. But with that, I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. Hope you enjoyed this show on stone structures. Melody, thank you for being co-host. We'll have you back next month a little differently. So thank you. And I want to thank everybody at home and everybody that's been watching live tonight. Thank you very much.
In shadows lurking, whispers in the